Thank you so much for watching. Mark, hi, Brooke. Thank you for being in the chat. We're going to talk about our favorite person in the world, Elon Musk. And I have a theory that Elon has a secret startup that we're going to find out about in the next couple of months. It's a theory. Don't hold me to I'm not claiming it's fact. I'm going to explain to you why I think this is true, where I think this is going. It starts with the news that we had that Dojo was shut down. So, and that there's 20 Tesla team employees went to a startup called Density AI. Density AI already had 3 people that were former Dojo team leaders with Tesla. You had Ganesh, you had a couple others, Ben Floring and Bill Chang. So a large chunk of the Dojo team is with Density AI. Martin Vieca is apparently an advisory role. So we're going to dive into Density AI, but I just want to lay out the theory. The theory is this, that Elon is actually now involved with the startup. The startup existed before. When he decided to let Dojo go, it doesn't make sense to let the team and the technology go to waste. There's still potential for that to do something, and it may actually be stronger to do this in a startup than it is to do it inside Tesla. And we have a perfect example of that. XAI. Elon could have started up a chat, a chat model, right? To a competitor to ChatGPT within Tesla. He decided to do that in XAI, and that model is working really well. XAI is booming. Hi, B. XAI is booming right now. Updates more than okay. So XAI is booming right now. Why did XAI matter? It was hard to attract top-level AI engineers to work for an established company when they want to work out in a startup environment and have the opportunity for startup equity and not have to compete for resources with other divisions of the large company. So now XAI has built a larger data center than Tesla has. They built this massive cluster for AI training and AI inference. Tesla's behind XAI on building out data infrastructure, building out the data centers. They've got Cortex, XAI has Colossus. Colossus is way ahead. So, Dojo's challenge was to basically build a competitor to NVIDIA, but it had to do it without adequate capital and maybe with some difficulty attracting key hardware engineers. They had a great team, but the reports are that they've not only got 20 people from the Dojo team, plus Ganesh and Bill and Ben, but that they're bringing in other people. So if you can picture it, if Elon's associated with this, now you're going to be able to bring in outside funding. Tesla can't really raise money specifically for Dojo. Tesla doesn't typically do capital raises, so Tesla has a set budget for CapEx, and that's primarily going to self-driving. And inference is going to matter. They basically solved the self-driving problem from a training perspective already. They're almost there. By the time Dojo 3 comes along, the problem will be over. So inference is going to be a lot more important. Inference is the hardware that's in the car and in the robot that's making decisions based on the training. And the inference, as Elon explained in the Q3 call, the Q2 call, and as he explained on X, inference is going to be good enough to do training on its own. But my theory is that he's not giving up on Dojo, that the team is not giving up on Dojo, that this is still a huge opportunity. So just to lay out, my theory posits that Elon may be quietly supporting Density AI right now. And I think that we're going after, Elon disbanded the team, called it a dead end, but was it really a dead end? And what's Density AI doing? They're developing a full stack AI platform for automotive applications and robotics. Can you think of any company that could use that? So the picture that I have is that Elon is involved in the company, which will help them raise money when they do a funding round. Number one, Elon can chip in some money at the start to give them the capital they need to go forward. By the way, I just to be clear, I'm not saying this is true. This is my speculation, but there's 2 parts to the speculation. One, that Elon's involved in the startup, and 2, that Tesla is going to license Dojo technology to the startup. You got 20 people from the team going over. Ganesh is already there. Bill and Ben are already there. They already know what they're doing. And Tesla doesn't have any use for that technology. So if Tesla licenses Dojo technology or sells Dojo technology to the startup in exchange for, if you guys get this working, we get to use it first. And probably to use it for Optimus more than for the cars, because the cars are already basically crossed that line. They're by the time Dojo 3 is ready, or whatever they're going to call it, a density AI, which is probably 2 years away, robotaxi is a solved problem. But Optimus will be an ongoing problem for years, maybe even decades. So my speculation is Elon's backing behind the scenes with cap, whatever his role might be, that helps attract top engineers and it helps secure capital. They might be able to raise $200 million on their own, but if Elon's name on it, maybe they can raise $2 billion at a $10 billion valuation right to start. XAI raised $6 billion to draw talent outside Tesla's constraints. Tesla is limited in what they can do. So Tesla had to balance. Do we do the inference hardware? Do we do the training hardware? We got to pick something. So they picked their focus on the inference hardware. They're letting this go on the outside. So the startup structure offers equity, upside, and freedom to the AI engineers. You're not worried about the constraints of, because this is the problem. Tesla's like, where are we going to put our CapEx? Are we going to put it in Dojo? Are we going to put it in inference hardware? Are we going to put it in new vehicles? So what was funky? Or are we having some issues? No, my computer says excellent connection. So you don't want, this way Dojo doesn't go to waste. Tesla licenses the technology or sells the technology to Density AI. Tesla might get primary rights to buy Density's future hardware or access its cloud compute, ensuring a supply of specialized AI compute without internal CapEx burdens. This could save a lot of money. Could position Density AI to compete with NVIDIA in niche automotive AI or real-world AI training. And to be clear, it's not that Density AI is going to beat NVIDIA in the future of training compute. It's that the future of training compute is large. NVIDIA has very, very large margins. And if you can come in and you can capture half of those margins and 1/10 of the volume, you have a very profitable company. NVIDIA is a $4 trillion company. If you end up with a $400 billion company, you're not going to cry. So there's a lot of potential here. And I think we will see something here. If Elon is involved in the company, if there's a related party transaction, if he is connected to the company as an investor, some other way involved in the company, and then Tesla's selling technology to the company, that's a related party transaction. So I think we might see a disclosure either for the annual meeting in November or for the Q3 quarterly report. That's my theory. The audio is cutting out. I don't know why you guys are getting that. My computer shows excellent connection. I'm getting 3 people saying it, but YouTube is telling me everything is great. So let's just look real quick. Stream settings. Yeah, I'm sorry that the audio is cutting out. Everything seems to be good here. Okay, so let's dive into this a little more. So the first thing is that we may see some kind of vote. We may see some kind of vote where if Elon is involved, thank you, Robert. If Elon is technically involved in the company and Tesla is selling technology or licensing technology, it's a related party transaction. I think we're going to see something either in the annual meeting or the Q3 quarterlies. So Density AI is on LinkedIn as AI startup in stealth. Who's associated with it? Ganesh is the first one over here. Richard Wang, Benjamin Floring, head of engineering at Stealth AI startup. He was a top engineer on the Dojo team. Down at the bottom, Bill Chang. I want you to notice one thing that really stands out to me. Richard Wang or Wang, his name, it says A New Hope. Gregory Hood in the middle on the second row says Return of the Jedi. Bill Chang says Force Awakens. I think Bill's actual on Bill's LinkedIn page now it says Red 5. These are all Star Wars names. There's some Star Wars thing going on in Density AI. I'm not sure what it means, but there's some reference to Star Wars going on here. There's some connection to Star Wars. Maybe it's Nvidia's the Empire. Maybe Tesla's the Empire. Who knows? And they are coming out to see what they can do. So Jared's asking me about options. Jared, we're talking about Elon's startup right now. We'll talk about Tesla later. If you stick around when I'm done going through my theories on density AI, we can talk about Tesla stock. Hi, Rich. Multiple people are having audio issues. I don't know what the problem is. I'm sorry about that. So I can't control that. So I just wanted you to see here, Ganesh, Richard Wang, Benjamin Flooring. So these are some key people that are involved. These are the only people on LinkedIn. I went through LinkedIn and I looked for everybody who had Tesla Dojo in their profile, and nobody has indicated they've left yet. It's a week ago, and nobody's updated their LinkedIn. Of course, LinkedIn is arguably dead, but some of these guys have used LinkedIn to indicate their involvement with the program. Could it be a dig at Sam Altman's Death Star post? Maybe they're shooting at ChatGPT. I don't know, at OpenAI. I don't think it's Starlink related. I think this is what was said in the Bloomberg article that everybody else is covering is automotive applications, robotics, and other AI, general application AI uses. We're going to get a little bit more into this with Bill Chang later in the video as I get more into it. But let's go in a little further. So Ganesh posted this 8 months ago. Apply to join the group of ACEs and be part of limitless innovation that will define the future of computing. They're hiring a bunch of people, leading the charge in the development of high-performance, scalable, and secure data center infrastructure solutions. What is Colossus? What is Cortex? What are these AI data centers? High-performance, scalable, and secure data center infrastructure solutions doing AI. Mission-critical technologies to enterprises pushing the boundaries. Now, this is 8 months ago. This is before Tesla gave up on Dojo. So I'm not sure where Ganesh was going, and we didn't see this turn into anything. Ganesh was working on it. We saw a couple of other people connected with it, but it didn't turn into anything. And now all of a sudden, a bunch of stuff is happening. So here was the news story. The startup is working on chips, hardware, and software that will power data centers for AI that are used in robotics, by AI agents, and in automotive applications, among other sectors. Roughly 24 former members of Tesla's Dojo project, including some senior-level individuals, have joined Density AI, along with other engineers from across the technology industry. Other engineers. Being able to attract outside talent. Now you have a startup that will get people. Okay. And maybe YouTube's having a problem. I don't know what's going on. So Benjamin Flooring, we're going to talk about Ben first, and then we're going to get to Bill Chang in a minute. Head of engineering at a stealth AI startup, Rogue One, another Star Wars reference. He and Bill were both members of South Park Commons, which is sort of a startup thing in the Bay Area of California, Silicon Valley area. Chief technology officer or something he's still involved with at the time that this came up. But principal hardware design engineer at Tesla, senior staff hardware design engineer, staff autopilot hardware engineer. Worked at Tesla for 8 years, if not longer. 7 years, 7 months. So a key player on the Tesla team left in April of 2024. When did Rogue One start up? April 2024. So Ben, when he left Tesla, posted a very positive message about his experience at Tesla. Looking back at my time at Tesla, I have many fond memories, being the first of a handful of silicon design hires, taping out Tesla's first silicon, AP3, I think that's hardware 3, being instrumental in Tesla's first system on a chip for Dojo, and the info wafer scale design were some of the highlights. I will never forget my time at Tesla and the people I met and the team I built. You guys are all rock stars and wish you great success on the road ahead. So he left the company, apparently not angry, and he's finding his way. You know, he started in 2016. He probably got a lot of stock. He's probably worth 10 million plus. He'll be okay. Don't panic. Now, really quick mention, one other guy from the team, Gregory Hood, legal counsel for Tesla for 5 years, and previously legal counsel for Amazon. I don't have a lot on Gregory Hood, but this is another guy from the Tesla team that's over there. Yeah, if you're on YouTube and you're having problems, a lot of people are saying restart or rewind 10 seconds and come back and it should be cleared up. I don't know what to tell you about that. So Bill Chang is, along with Ganesh and Ben, the three top guys that were with Tesla that are now with Density AI. Chief System Engineer for Dojo Supercomputer. That's pretty good. Chief Engineer responsible for system architecture and design of AI training systems, built and managed teams. Also had the South Park Commons experience along with Ben, and AI startup and stealth. So Bill, I've got a lot. I didn't find a lot about anybody else, but I found a lot about Bill. Bill led Tesla's revolutionary Dojo supercomputer project designed to train the car manufacturer's self-driving algorithms. Our goal was to build the world's fastest supercomputer for machine learning. We asked ourselves, what would it look if we built it from the ground up? First principles. In the process, we considered and challenged every tech paradigm. The Dojo computer has been hailed as architecturally unique, a new era of supercomputing, and an asymmetric competitive advantage. You can see him in his Tesla. I think that's a Model 3. Not sure. I've got a bunch of content from Bill. That's what's going to be going on. No, they're not trolling, Miles. Some people are having a YouTube issue. The people who are complaining are not trolling. These are regulars. Bill is passionate about pushing tech boundaries. As he says, if you don't risk going over the edge, you don't know where the edge is. This is like if you're a weightlifter. You want to go close to failure, but you have to go to failure sometimes to know what it feels like to go to failure, so you know when you're close to failure. If you're pushing limits on technology, you've got to take some risks. And I think Optimus is picking my nose more than I am, so I got to fix that. Thinking about the power of AI broadly, this is I think from January 2025. So he's left the company. I think he's technically with the startup, but nothing's happening yet. Thinking about the power of AI broadly, Bill believes we are at an inflection point that society will change, but it's unclear what it will look like. This is the biggest advance in my lifetime, says Bill. It's as significant as the transistor. It's quick to point out that the path to significant tech breakthroughs is through high-performing teams and risk-tolerant cultures that encourage expansive thinking. If you follow Ryan Tanaka, who's the Neuropod content creator, the YouTuber and probably the number one source on Neuralink, he often talks about this. Elon builds teams where he gets A players. If you have A players working together, they magnify each other's work. If you throw a few C players on the team, it kind of screws everybody else. You don't want to be an A player in a group of C players. You want to be A player around A players. So our Dojo team was remarkably connected. We all cared about collective success. If one thing didn't work, we would try the next thing. When team members got deflated, we would prop each other up. We had each other's backs. A very human experience amidst groundbreaking tech. And we got more, but I want to hit this point in case you worry that they have bad feelings. He has a bunch of stories about his time as Tesla. One thing I highly respect about Elon is he's basically the same person whether you see him in an interview or in a meeting. Respect that consistency. I remember a time when he told the autopilot team, what we're doing is super important. We have to bring this technology out to make things safer. But what this looks like is if you save 9 people's lives, they never know it. The one you didn't save will sue you. And he said, don't worry about what others say, just do the right thing. Make your best call because whatever you do, people will say you're wrong. He said this in an interview a few months later. It stuck with me. It's true. People judge you afterward, but all you can do at the time is what you think is right. Surround yourself with smart people, get different perspectives, but do the right thing. I wanted to mention this because it's not like he's got negative feelings towards Elon. Ben said positive things about the Tesla team and his experience at Tesla. I think Ganesh too. They probably didn't like getting canned, but they're turning it into an opportunity. So, Bill talks about Dojo. At a very high level, Dojo was created when things were fairly new. At that time, the state of the art was convolutional neural networks. LLMs didn't exist. From first principles, we set out to build the best training platform we could. There's 2 parts to it, architecture and technology. Dojo team is trying to build the best, and I encompass best in a lot of ways, computer to do training at a large scale. Dojo fits into the larger picture as a different training architecture. It's similar to trying to port your software from, let's say, an NVIDIA platform to a TPU, tensor processing unit. It's a Google uses tensor processing units. It's a different chip than the NVIDIA chips, or to a Grok chip or something like that. It had a very different compute architecture. It relies on a compiler to translate something done in PyTorch down into the hardware, and it's fairly large scale. Maybe not in terms of, say, a Colossus from XAI, but it's a very large scale in the grand scheme of things. You can see he's really in tune with what XAI is doing. He's really in tune with what's going on in the world of training compute. Dojo excels at vision-based workloads, which is what it was created for. Vision-based workloads, not just the cars. If you look at Tesla's pipeline for training as a whole, it's quite large, and Dojo fits well into that. The team is still pushing really hard in terms of continuing to build the best kind of training computer you possibly can from a cost, performance, and power perspective. Why would you let that go? Why would you let that die? They're not going to let this die. Dojo was built in a way that is general purpose. So now with some different architectures coming out, you can reconfigure it so it can be tuned to a different workload. That's my expectation. You'll see the building blocks remain the same, and then we'll reconfigure it. We'll reconfigure it to maybe support. He's not on the team anymore when he says this. We'll reconfigure it to maybe support transformers or something else in between. Slip of the tongue, or does it mean something? This is, fairly recent. That could mean configuring a version that might have more memory, changing that ratio or something like that. He's already on the Stealth AI startup. Are they already planning to work with Dojo? Is the plan already in the works that they're going to do something with Dojo and then it just changed so they're just taking over Dojo? So this is a part of a longer interview. I took bits and pieces from what he said. From a system standpoint, if we trade off model size with additional compute time, there's actually a much better trade-off. To increase model parameters, the coherent system has to grow. That means your blast radius grows. So one of the challenges, you have these computers that are doing inference work. He's not talking about training work right now. He's talking about inference work. And if you're using multiple nodes and one node crashes, then a lot of users can get in trouble. So he's talking about the efficiency of this. This guy thinks at a level that's like way above anything I've ever heard. Okay, which is not surprising. This is what he is, right? But he's thinking deeply about how your AI data center is going to handle challenges like if a node goes down. So a chip might have 300 nodes on it or 200 nodes on it. If one node goes down, how many users are dependent on that node? If you can set up your system so there's only one user on that node when it goes down, then one node going down doesn't mess up everybody else. But if you set it up wrong, maybe 1,000 users are affected when one node goes down, and nodes go down. So if you had a huge model spanning multiple nodes, maybe 10 nodes go down for one user, you'd rather have 10 users each on one node rather than one user spanning 10 nodes. That's a better overall cloud deployment choice. He's thinking about cloud compute. Elon talked about Dojo for cloud compute, right? It's not just selling hardware to somebody who's going to put it in their own data center. It may be building your own data center and selling AI training services. And this guy's talking about that. He's talking about selling AI training service and inference service through cloud compute. That's what Dojo was supposed to be. And he's talking about this. This is what that density AI is doing. This is what Dojo was supposed to do. This is my theory. In terms of total GPU hours, it's the same. Let's assume you're making a choice between racing to the finish with a huge model or just using longer compute time with a smaller one. For a large-scale deployment, I'd rather go for the smaller, more flexible approach. At least that's my view. So if we continue to push in that direction, it's an easier problem when it comes to building scalable, more reliable systems. But I'm not sure if you can make that trade-off in training, but at least with inference you can. Inference is the compute that's on the hardware. It's on the bot. It's on the car. I know the car's not here anymore, but training is in the data center only. But inference compute is the training compute trains the computer in the bot or the car, and that makes a decision. But you also have training compute at the data center that may be working for, let's say, when you ask ChatGPT a question, when you ask Grok a question, your question's being answered by inference compute, not by training compute. So those are all the slides I have here. Let's look at some questions. Did anyone who got laid off not go to density? That would be telling. Well, so this is a detail, Robert. Good question. Nobody on LinkedIn, there's only, let's go back to that. On LinkedIn, these are the only people that are associated with the startup so far. I searched to try to find people who had Tesla Dojo in their profile, and everybody said to the present. Nobody had said they left the company yet. But supposedly 20 people left. So either Bloomberg is wrong, which is a possibility, or a bunch of people left and they're not disclosing who left and who went where yet. Because some of the team left the Dojo team but got moved maybe to the AI6 team or somewhere else in the company. Yeah, some people probably left. If you were fairly early in Tesla, you may have decided, hey, this is a good time for me to cut out. I think it was Ben was talking about it's either Ben or Bill was talking about their history and when they got cut and how they timed I think it was Ben. Ben has a post on LinkedIn where he talks about leaving the company and how his timing worked out. He was going to leave on the 12th, and then they wanted him to leave on the 19th, and then they decided to do some layoffs on the 12th, so he left on the 12th. Jim, I posted this live stream like 3 or 4 days ago. I have no idea why. Jim is here to correct me. Okay, Jim. So just a real quick summary for some people who are here new. My thesis is that, I'll go back to this. My thesis is that the Dojo team got cut. Some of them stayed with the company in different format, but about 20 Dojo engineers went to a new startup called Density AI. I think I got that here, which is also known as AI Startup and Stealth. Ganesh was one of the heads of the Dojo team, so he's got a startup. There's the startup's working on chips, hardware, and software. So my thesis is that Elon didn't just let Dojo end. That Elon said, I can do a startup like I did with XAI. By doing it as a startup, I can do a better job of attracting top engineers to come work for the company. We can raise money from outside and bring it in, which is harder to do with Tesla. It's hard to allocate capital within Tesla to this project, but you bring it outside. XAI raised $6 billion. Maybe this company can raise $5 billion because it's an outside startup that's affiliated with Elon, right? If Elon's not involved, it may be harder for them to raise money. But if Elon's name is on it, venture capitalists want in. Everybody wants in. I want in, right? If Elon's got a startup, everybody wants in. So, and it doesn't make sense to let the Dojo technology go waste if there's hope for it. So if you've got a great team that's got great experience working with Dojo and they were having trouble getting capital and they were having trouble recruiting the right engineers and allocating capital within the company, then letting this go. Okay, so this is my theory, that number one, that Elon's involved, and number two, that the technology from Dojo, they're either independent of each other, right? It could be that Elon's evolved and the technology is not moving over. It could be that Elon's not involved and the Dojo technology is moving over. So Wes says, shareholders will be super pissed if Dojo was moved out of Tesla intentionally. I don't think so. I think that there's a practical reality that that Tesla didn't have the ability to continue developing Dojo because they just didn't have the capital available and they were having trouble attracting the AI engineers that they need. But this isn't a one-sided transaction. The idea is that Tesla is licensing Dojo to Density AI, or they're selling Dojo technology to Density AI. In exchange, Tesla gets something back. When Density AI has a product, has cloud compute available, Tesla gets some of that. They get first dibs, they get first access, they can buy the hardware that's developed at a discount, whatever it is. Something along those lines would be part of the deal. So Dojo, they weren't able to develop Dojo the way they wanted to, the way we wanted them to, because of the constraints of being inside a large company, having difficulty attracting top engineers, and having difficulty allocating capital to it. Tesla can't just go out on the market and raise $6 billion and dump it into Dojo. It's harder for a large company to do something like that. But now you've got the startup. The startup can do it. The AI engineers want to be part of a startup that's got this promising opportunity to make a lot of money on equity, and they're not in the constraints of being in a large company. So my life doesn't revolve around your tropical schedule. A lot of us are more important than you. You are all more important than me. Everything Elon touches turns to gold, Jimmy. That's, I don't want to say everything, but it's a good bet. Never bet against Elon. Not Your Mom says, I feel like Elon keeps starting new companies to cut out Tesla retail investors. No, I think the reality is that Tesla is still on the path to having Robotaxi and Optimus 10x, 100x the stock. That path is still there. It's honestly, it's hard to see how it doesn't happen. We're already getting that. Dojo, it's just that the thing that doing XAI, doing Dojo, doing Boring Company, doing Neuralink, none of those things really fits inside Tesla. It's hard to allocate capital to them. It's distracting to the management team. There's all kinds of issues. And then do people want to go work for a company that's not really a startup and it's too late and they didn't get their options early enough, whatever. I think they're more attracted to it this way. So Oh, Mark, I don't have a regular schedule like Sunday and Wednesday. The theory is Sunday and then ideally 2 days a week, but I really got caught up in this idea for this video. So I didn't. I was going to do it. I was going to do this a couple days ago, and I decided no, I want to do this on Sunday because Sunday's my regular day. And I don't think we have a lot of Tesla news. So if you have questions or thoughts about the idea of Density AI being a new Elon startup that is going to develop AI training hardware and ultimately compete with not compete with NVIDIA as in beat NVIDIA in some large competition, but participate in the AI training hardware market that NVIDIA is so successful in and capture a small piece. Is there a prospect for that? Could you develop an AI startup that becomes 1/10 the size of NVIDIA? And wouldn't that be pretty good? If you raise $6 billion now and ultimately it becomes a $400 billion company, that would be pretty good for an engineering team to get in early on that. Jared says, as an employee, so Jared brings this up. Let's go back to Jared's question. Jared was asking about options. As an employee, I can buy options for about $90 per option, or I can buy the stock for 15% off. What are the options? I got one for the hell of it. I have no idea what it is. I think I'd have to know the strike price of your option and the strike date of your option. My take for me personally is that I have different accounts, and one of my accounts is a Roth IRA, which is tax-free when I take money out, and I'm close to the age where I can take out. I think I already can take out 59 and a half. So my view is I want my biggest gains in the Roth IRA, because when I get the big gains and I take money out, I won't pay taxes on it. So my Roth IRA is all long Tesla options. If you don't have a Roth IRA, that's not a compelling argument. If you believe that Tesla's going to go up 2x, 3x, 5x, then long options are a really good choice. If you think Tesla's going to go up 20%, 30%, 50%, then options, depending on what the strike price of the options are, it may not be that big of a boost, and there's a lot of risk involved in options. If you can get stock for 15% off, that's a pretty good deal. And it also depends, like, what do you have in your portfolio already? I already have a lot of Tesla stock. So getting the options is an odd form of diversification, if we can call it that. Robert says, what signals would you look for to confirm this theory? So the signals that we're looking for is there any disclosure in the Tesla Q3 quarterly report or in the proxy for the shareholder meeting? Because if two things are true, if Elon is associated with this new company, this new startup, and Tesla is transferring technology, whether licensing or selling technology to the new company, then that sale of the technology is a related party transaction. And that would be something that Tesla would have to disclose. We did a transaction from our company to another company owned by Elon, and that's information that you would typically have to disclose. So we'll see in the Q3, unless something is disclosed before then, we would see something in the Q3 quarterly report or in the shareholder meeting proxy or some other SEC filing. And I don't know, like, if Elon isn't, if I'm correct about the transfer of technology, but I'm not correct about Elon being involved with a new company, they might not have to disclose it. But, basically the value of Dojo, right? Tesla saying we're not doing Dojo anymore, we're going to AI6 and Dojo's a dead end. What's the value of Dojo now to the company? If they're not going to pursue it, the value is basically zero. There's some value to it, but is it worth $1 billion? Is it worth a few $100 million? Who knows? In what year will Grok take the periodic table and the laws of physics and solve all problems? I think Grok will make meaningful progress on physics, and maybe some other AIs will make meaningful progress on physics within the next 5 years. Yeah, so Wes, I'm not saying it would have to be disclosed up front, but it would have to be disclosed that it was done. And if it might be a wise choice to put it to a shareholder vote at the shareholder meeting and get the shareholders to approve it. And the shareholders, somebody said that they don't think the shareholders wouldn't go for it. Shareholders would love it. Whatever Elon tells us to do, we're going to vote for. Jim says getting a Roth IRA is easy and free with firms like Schwab and Fidelity. I switched to Fidelity as it has more security. It takes about 15 minutes online. Yeah, I mean, I'm not advising people about how to do Roth IRAs. That's a whole nother video. I just know for me, I already had a Roth IRA. I transferred some stock from my I don't know if I transferred stock or sold, whatever. I moved stuff from my regular IRA to my Roth IRA. I paid taxes on it as I do the transfer, and then I bought the options. But that's the and I'm a part of the Rebellionaire group, and Bradford Ferguson and Matt Smith run Rebellionaire, and I would encourage people to reach out to Bradford Ferguson if you're interested in doing those kind of option strategies. He has more sophisticated option strategies. I think for people who have $1 million in assets or more, you'd have to check with him on what his limits are. But he's been doing this for a long time. He's been advising heavy Tesla investors on how to manage that wisely, and I think he's got some really good ideas. The employee agreements would likely stop IP transfer. I'm not sure about that. I don't understand why they would stop IP transfer. I mean, if the companies make a deal, then the IP transfer happens. If Tesla fires the employees, and I think they're in California basically, I'm not sure how the employee agreements would stop that. IRAs are done at 74. I don't know what that means. What do you mean done? One can transfer shares into a Roth without cashing them in at the current value. Yeah, I think I transferred shares in, but then I had to sell some because I had to pay taxes on the transfer. Because when you transfer in, you got to pay taxes on that. At least I did. Okay, so I don't have a lot of other news. I've been playing with Grok Imagine. It's a lot of fun. I think that I'm very excited about the future. I hope you're all very excited about the future. I think Tesla's doing great things, but I don't see a lot of other questions about my crazy idea. So we'll see. I think the big guy is doing something amazing because he always does something amazing. So if it's not what's happening, like I said, this was speculation, but it doesn't make sense to me that you would let the Dojo technology die when you have a team getting together to use that technology. I think if you're transferring shares from Schwab to Fidelity, you wouldn't have any tax. But if you transfer shares from a regular IRA to a Roth IRA, you have to pay income tax on the money that comes out of the regular IRA. That's how I understand it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks everyone so much for watching. Thanks to Jim and Mark for moderating the chat, and best wishes to everybody. Bye-bye.